Welcome to hour number 2 of the Art Lewis Show here on WSGW. And we're going to start out this hour talking about distracted driving. We're going to do that with a man who's spending some of his career studying that very thing and creating ways to avoid it. He is a safety engineer for General Motors, and we say good morning to Dan Glaser. Dan, good morning.
Hi, Art. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being with us today. Distracted driving has been in the news for several years now. There's been new laws come about. Now in Michigan, for example, you can't hold the phone while you drive. You can't text. You can't do all of those things. Has it made much of a dent in distracted driving and how many people we lose every year because of it?
It's likely had some impact, but I don't think it's had the kind of impact we would hope. So it's important to get the message out there that there are laws, and it's very possible these could become more strict, that it could be forced a little more stringently. And just a reminder, in Michigan, there are hundreds of dollars of fine, up to 24 hours of community service with a certain number of violations. You can even be sent to a driving improvement course. I'm sure no one wants to do that, along with, the risk you're putting out there on the road. So, I think it's on all of us to think about these things a little bit more. Yeah.
I have to point out what seems to me to be a paradox in the manufacturing of automobiles. And you can react to this, but cars have come out with devices designed to reduce distracted driving. There's voice recognition, hands-free features, and new systems that we'll talk about here in a minute. At the same time, they've gone to these computer screens that in some cars run all the way across the dash. It seems to me that at the same time you're trying to reduce distracted driving, those screens to me increase distracted driving. And here's what I mean by that. In my vehicle, where I still have buttons, it's tactile. I don't have to look at them. I can feel them and turn them on and off if I have to. I got to look at screens. I have to be distracted by screens. Am I wrong?
Well, I think we offer bigger screens in part because customers demand more and more.
Yep.
We're also competing with phones that, we could take away all screens and just leave the driver with the phone. And
I would like analog dashes.
Okay. Well, in that case, people would spend many people would spend all their time on the phone.
Yeah.
There are some benefits to big screens that maybe people don't necessarily think about. So you do get a much bigger image of your reverse camera, for instance, unlike maybe a smaller screen. So it's going to be much more clear what might be behind you or coming at you. You have a much clearer view of your navigation. Maybe there's less scrolling that needs to happen when you just want to see what song's playing. And so visually, things can happen much more clearly. I think with removing buttons, if customers complain enough, a lot of those buttons come back, but a lot of effort is put in there to make them, make sense in terms of being able to find them. We can organize them in a certain way, not have them spread out all over the car in the screen in some circumstances. We also put a lot of buttons on the steering wheel, which allows you to keep your hands on the wheel.
Yeah, that's true. So let me ask you this. Is there a system, or are we developing a system that so monitors the driver as to know when they're distracted?
I love that question because the answer is yes. We started offering a feature like that in model year 24 called Driver Attention Assist. And so this feature actually uses a little camera on top of the steering wheel. And the second I say camera, everybody gets a little nervous.
But where's that image going?
Right, yeah. Where are those images going? Well, it doesn't really take video. So it's not storing video or anything like that. What it does instead is it can analyze the scene and send a little message. The camera sends a little message to the car saying, whoa, this driver is yawning and closing their eyes and about to fall asleep. Let's buzz the seat and try to get this driver to wake up. And I think everybody wants that feature on their loved ones' cars, right? If they're about to fall asleep, this idea of falling asleep. And the same thing with distraction. If a driver's looking away too long, we can remind the driver to look back up. So I think this is a nice first step into that reacting to the driver real time that has a lot of promise down the road.
That's an interesting comment. First step. So if we look at the Glasser crystal ball, what do you see 5 years down the road?
Well, I wish I could talk about that. I'd love to talk about all of our plans and this. Unfortunately, I've been highly discouraged to disclose that. But I think, it's all of our features are going to develop and get smarter. So I think just kind of keep an eye out. Yeah.
Is the car going to get so smart that it doesn't need us?
Well, that is one theory for how to kind of eliminate the problem of distraction, completely remove the steering wheel, and so that way the cars don't get drowsy or distracted. It's unclear how far off we are from that, but when we do start to just have the drivers completely out of the loop, they don't need to pay attention, they can fall asleep. I think there is a lot of promise in improving safety that way.
And that seems to be.
But exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish up. You were saying.
Yeah, again, the timeline is that's a tough one for sure.
Another one of those paradoxes. Now cars, my car has, it keeps you in its lane. It has anti-collision. It has adaptive cruise control. It has all of these features which in some ways help me pay less attention to what I'm supposed to be doing. Does that make sense?
Right. So there has been a number of kind of studies around do these things lead to complacency? And generally it seems not. But we have studied the effectiveness of these features, and we've identified that whether people are becoming complacent or not, people are getting in fewer crashes. So for instance, with a rear vision camera, what we call rear cross traffic, where someone's driving behind you and maybe it was hard to see, you'll get alerted with automatic braking. Put all those together, and it leads to around an 84% reduction in back-end crashes. And we have other big reductions with forward crashes as well. So it does seem to be effective if you keep them on.
Yeah, don't look for the turnoff. I got it. So what do you tell people how to prevent distracted driving? What are your tips?
Yeah, well, my big tip is not all that technological. I think it's a cultural thing. So I think the idea that you kind of get into the vehicle and zip off needs to go away. I think people need to get into the vehicle. They need to buckle their seatbelt and just take a few moments to think about, what do I need during this drive? What can I do really well while I'm stopped? Don't let driving get in the way of how awesome your text is going to be. Get it done while you're stopped. Get whatever radio station you're going to play. Obviously, I know which radio station your listeners are going to put on.
Appreciate that.
Right, you can do all kinds of things. Give your kid in the back seat, your grandkid in the back seat, a book so they're less likely to bug you as you're going 70 miles an hour down the highway. And your drive is going to be far more relaxing. It's going to be fun just driving again, and you're much more likely to be safe. And you're also setting a great example for that next generation.
Are there tips for staying awake? It seems like a simple question, but
if you're feeling like you're having trouble staying awake, then you should pull off. But if you're feeling maybe just a little bit, not quite at your peak, this will sound a little strange. If you're in a familiar area and not in dense traffic, it's been found that having a conversation actually leads to people crashing less. So, like, say, truck drivers, when they have phone calls, they're half as likely to get into a crash because they're not likely to fall asleep. And so that's one way. Yeah. So I think engaging with material, finding something that it's exciting to listen to, having a conversation is a great way to help keep yourself a little more alert. But again, if you are feeling rather sleepy, you feel like it's difficult to stay awake, then you should pull over.
Yeah. All right. So in conclusion, without giving away General Motors secrets, which they discourage you from doing, is it
Keep
safe?
telling me not to. It's so frustrating. Yeah. Okay.
Is it safe to say that the car of the future is going to have more and more and more technology?
Well, I think yes, but I think it's likely that's going to be, if we're talking about the far future, it's a vehicle that probably drives itself for the most part, and then offers lots of fun things to do while you're being driven around, like a taxi patron. So
great.
But also you can engage with that technology how you want. You don't have to engage with all of it. Find a few things that work for you, like Bluetooth. At least do that, so that way you can receive calls hands-free and things like that.
Yeah. Well, listen, Dan, thank you much for spending some time with us, and we'll have to do it again sometime and see how much progress we're making in alleviating distracted driving.
Love to do it. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye now.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Dan Glasser, he is a safety engineer with General Motors, and he specializes in distracted driving. Interesting stuff. We'll have open phones for the remainder of the hour. 989-752-6111 is the number to call. Maybe you got some thoughts on the modern automobile and all its technology. We'd love to hear from you. But give us a call, and we'll come back and take those calls after these notes.
Service.
All right, we're back with you on the Art Lewis Show. Open phones for the remainder of the hour. We begin in Bay City. We talked to Sean this morning. Good morning, Sean.
Hey, good morning, Art. Appreciate you taking the call. First and foremost, two things. One on the guest you had yesterday, the education lady there. She was awesome.
Oh, the principal, yeah. Rachel.
Yeah, yeah. And what I took out of that was, you teach reading, writing, and arithmetic and have standards, and it's amazing what can happen.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand she said, well, it can cost dollars and stuff, that too, it's a little more expensive. But here's the thing. My mama always told me you can live in a stick house and have dirt floors and still be clean.
Yep.
So it's not necessarily about the money. It's about standards and earning your spot and stuff like that.
Proof of that pudding, Sean, is we spend more money on education than most states, and we have the poorest outcome. Money does not generate outcome.
I think we're number 2 in spending in all the countries and have the worst results.
So money doesn't guarantee an outcome.
Right. It's the standard and the expectations from the teachers all the way down to the student
and the parents. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that was a great interview. Really love listening to that. Number 2, the guy that was just the GM guy.
Yeah.
Now this is coming from a car salesman, right? What I find interesting is, right? Okay. What I find interesting is, first of all, if GM does their own research on their own stuff, of course it's going to be 82%. I did a survey on myself, and it came back 110%. Right? Right? Okay. And the second thing is, there's been no progress, only technology. That's all it is. It's still a radio. Instead of just turning the knob, I got to push the button 28 times. I got to go to this screen. It's still just a radio. It's still just a heater.
Yeah, it's still just a car.
It's right. There's been no progress. It's just crap technology.
Well,
more sensors. Well, no, let me finish. More sensors, more stuff to break, and it's just about putting more money in their pocket, keeping you coming back. And if you want to make cars safe, make no power steering and give it a manual transmission. Now you got to drive.
Well, there's some truth to that, but I would argue that there has been progress. The cars are far more reliable. The engines run a lot better than they used to, as long as the computer functions.
Right. No. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. Safety,
Yeah.
things like that. But all these lane departure and all this stuff, here's my hypothesis. If you need to have those on your car, shouldn't your insurance be more because you need that just to be able to go down the road?
Yeah, you're not paying attention. You're letting those things work for you. I got you. Yep.
Right.
I agree. Listen.
I love cops, but I really wish they'd just start going after bad drivers, right? Bad drivers kill and cause accidents.
Well, they do. However, here's the problem. They do exactly what you say. There's just not enough of them.
I hear you there because there's a lot of bad drivers. Right?
And a lot more bad drivers than there are cops, apparently. So, all right.
Yeah, but interesting combo. I'll let you ride. Have
John,
a great weekend.
thanks, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Yes.
And we'll continue on in Saginaw where we talk to Alvin. Hello, Alvin.
Hey, how's it going, Art?
Hey, it's going well, my friend.
I'm just calling because I debated it, and I finally went to the Midland Center of the Arts space experience thing. I don't know the name of it, the real name of it, but
Infinite.
I got to tell you, that thing is the craziest interactive thing I've ever experienced. I just wish everybody could go and see that because it was amazing.
Well, you have until Sunday because that's when it ends.
And it's you can't even explain it to anybody. I was trying to explain it to somebody. I can't even explain it to you.
Well, it's like walking in space.
I know, and the whole thing is, I wasn't ready for it because you know how you go up and you touch those balls, those interactive balls.
Yep.
All of a sudden I was out in space and I was getting vertigo and everything. I totally frantic. I had to raise my hand. I mean, it is the most crazy. My favorite part of it though is when you actually get inside the space shuttle and you see these astronauts interacting with each other.
Yep.
I just found that to be, and it's like you're sitting next to them.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I've never done anything like it, and I have virtual reality goggles at home and a computer that can handle it, and it's pretty spacey because you can put in 360-degree stuff, but it is still not like what that is, being able to walk in space, walk into the space shuttle, and walk into the space station, push one of those orbs, and all of a sudden everything around you, you're in there. You know, and it's phenomenal.
You are there.
It's
you
phenomenal.
are there.
Yep.
And the thing is, I'm surprised Disney hasn't got a hold of this technology because to me, that is the most. I mean, it's just amazing how real it seems.
Well, I think the day will come when instead of a movie theater with a big screen, you go in, sit down at your seat, and strap on the virtual reality headset. And everything is right there. I think that day's going to come, if it's not here already.
But it's the walking around. That's the real big thing.
Yeah, and hanging out in the middle of space.
You are literally experiencing, like you are interactive.
I can remember halfway through walking through the wall of the space station, and I found myself standing in space because the Earth was below me, and the space station was above me, and I was just hanging there. And I'm trying to say to myself, how do I get back inside this thing?
and that's the exact same for me. I was like, I don't want to go further than it I am already. I'm already scared to death. It's neat, isn't it?
Well, it was great. It was worth doing, that's for sure. All right.
It's worth every time. Anyway, I just wanted to say that.
I'm glad you did it, Alvin. Talk to you soon, bud. Take care.
Yeah,
bye-bye. We'll take a quick break. Come back. Mike, hang on. You'll be next.
Hometown feel and
And we are back with you on WSGW. Open phones for the remainder of the hour at 989-752-6111, where we find Mike in Thomas Township. Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Art. I wanted to, I'm consider myself a conservative. I don't consider myself a Republican or Democrat. I think I'm just independent. But again, you watch news reports from the 3 channels that are going downhill with their listeners, and about that guy that they sent to prison, El Salvador, the prison that mistakenly sent. They had 3 law enforcement people on the other day that said 110% he's a well, he also said he was a Marylander, but he's definitely from there, and he was supposed to be deported. He just, they let us slip through the cracks, but a couple times he beat his wife up, and they let him go on that. But these law enforcement, one of them stopped him coming back from Texas to Tennessee with, I think it was 6 or 8 people undocumented in his car, and he didn't have a license. They let him go with just a warning and probably a ticket for the non-licensed. But the news media keeps on saying that he was mistakenly deported. There was no mistake about it. They had on the head of the ISIS, they had the border security, they had 2 or 3 law enforcement people, either judges or something, that said no, they definitely was a M13. So anyway, but the newspapers keep on making him sound like he's a nice, innocent little guy that just happened to beat up his wife a few times, and nothing wrong with it. He's a major leadership in that M13. And M13, in order to get into it, I think you have to have a kill.
How do you know he's a major leadership?
Well, because they showed him in a group picture with all the leadership from M13. So I'm just going by what the news showed. Okay, I don't know personally. I wasn't there. Okay, but I do know that the news media just keeps on making it sound like he's just a nice, innocent little guy that, whatever.
Well, I think here's what I think about this, Mike. I think the Supreme Court is right in saying, yes, the president should be able to deport these people, but they should have due process. And they need to have some special courts set up that handle the due process in a timely and quick fashion. Quick manner, so that we can take action where action's needed and let them stay where they're acceptable. We don't have it, and we need to get that done.
Absolutely. I also don't agree with those justices said that Trump broke the law by flying him there, and he's in contempt of court.
Well, that's that one judge. That's that one judge.
And he doesn't have any jurisdiction whatsoever over the executive branch of the government. He's an appointed official from some state somewhere.
Yeah, no, he's a federal judge. He's not a state judge.
Matter.
Well, it does matter. It does matter because it matters because he's an equal branch.
Well, so you think that he should have to bring them all back then, right?
No, I don't. I think the Supreme Court will eventually. Well, yeah, he could say what he wants. He's a judge.
I know.
That's what you have a Supreme Court for. So they'll decide.
Well, I agree. But these courts are, they get elected by Soros putting money out there. They get these.
Come on, half the judges are appointed by Republicans. So come on, I mean, don't get in the weeds with it. Besides,
but I do know that a lot of them that are elected. I'm talking about the district, the state judges and stuff like that. Soros puts out a lot of money to get those elected, and you've read those newspapers and stuff. So anyway, there's I just like to see it, and even where we get a say in the government, not these justices or these rich Sorsen or these movie stars from California. I just wish that we could make it back the way it was when I was younger. I haven't started. Kennedy, I think, was the first president that I was, eligible. I think it was whenever I was 18. I think it must have been Kennedy, because I was in the Army then, and he got killed after I got out of the Army. So, but anyway, so I'm not necessarily going Republican or anything. I go by the person and what they can do.
Yep.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you do too. Okay. Anyway, have a great day.
Good enough.
You don't celebrate Easter, do you?
No. Well, I'm going to somebody's house to help celebrate, but it's not
Okay,
part
there
of
you
it's
go.
not part of the Jewish tradition. Let's put it that way.
No, I know that.
All right.
I'm going to have steaks on the grill for
But we provided you with the Old Testament so you could get there.
you. Got it.
There you go. All
Okay.
right.
Take care, my friend.
Take
Bye
care.
now.
Bye-bye. And let's see. Dwayne, hang on. We'll get to you next after these notes.
For 100 years, Forward and
We're back with you, and let's get back to our phones. And we have Dwayne in Reese. Dwayne, good morning.
Good morning. Are you guys is there a Good Friday service at the Rising Center this year? I know you usually in the morning you have an interview with a pastor.
Yeah, well, we didn't hear from him this year. I don't know. That's an interesting question, you know?
Because Vaughn Vidic usually brings
Oh,
them in.
there is not. I've been told there is not.
Oh.
I just, someone who would know just shook their head no to me, so I'm assuming there is not.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we'd be there.
Yeah, they usually had the minister interview, and then Vaughn Vidic would bring that minister.
Yep. Well, apparently they're not doing it this year.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Everybody have a blessed Easter. Thank
Well,
you.
you too, Dwayne. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we have Carl in Saginaw. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Art. Yes, happy Easter to you and your family,
Thank you.
or the equivalent of that.
Yep.
Talking about this man who was sent to El Salvador, I hear the people saying, there's all this evidence, and the police are saying this and they're saying that. I think what a lot of us are saying then, okay, fine, if you have this evidence, put him in front of a judge, lay out the evidence, and follow due process. We're not saying this guy is Father of the Year or Citizen of the Year or something like that. We're just saying just follow the law.
Well, they were following what law they thought they were following at the time. The Supreme Court has now said that they can deport, but they do have to have due process. But this guy's already gone,
Yes.
and they can't pluck him from El Salvador if El Salvador doesn't want to give him up. And he's an El
I don't
Salvadoran
think
native.
that's true.
Well, you can believe what
I
you
don't
want.
think that's true.
Well, you can believe what you want.
yeah.
You don't know any more than I do.
Well, I know what's in the news.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. You don't know any more than I do.
That dictator in El Salvador would do anything that Trump asked him to do.
You're welcome to the
And-
opinion.
Okay. And also, remember when Trump first announced this policy of, exporting people? He said it's going to be the worst of the worst criminals. It's going to be murderers. It's going to be rapists.
Well,
It's going to be.
do you know that it's
And
not?
Now we find out. Yeah, we find out now. Well, he had a baseball cap on.
All right, so wait a minute, Carl. Wait a minute now. Thousands of people have been deported by the president, and we're talking about one or two of them as maybe falling through the cracks. That's not a bad percentage when you think about it.
Well, how do you know it's 2%? How do you know that?
I don't know it any more than you know how bad or worse it is.
Well,
So I'm
then why
looking at
say
it from my
it's 2%?
point. I'm interpreting what I've seen. I've only seen a couple of issues where they were questioned. The rest,
Yes,
nobody
but
seems to question
you're
the
going
road.
entirely on data from that the government is releasing. You're taking one side,
And you're
saying,
going totally
"No,
on data released by the news that you follow,
No, I'm saying
who get
let's
their
have a
news from the
hearing.
government.
I'm saying let's put him in front of a judge. and
Yeah,
have
if
a
you can
hearing.
get him back,
You don't-
let's do that. I'm not arguing with that point. I think they should have due process. All you got to do is get them back. Let me know how you do. When you get them back, we can talk about it.
Okay, before we send any more people out, they should go in before a judge.
That's what the Supreme Court has said.
Yes?